Welcome to Clarity and Alchemy, the podcast for conscious entrepreneurs, empowered healers, empaths, and heart-centered leaders and visionaries. I'm your host and chief alchemist, Hafiz. We will explore mystical and practical aspects of spirituality, self-work, psychology, metaphysics, entrepreneurship, and conscious wealth. So sit back, relax, take what resonates and discard the rest. And let's dive right in. Welcome to our continued series on alchemy. So today we are going to start with the first step within the 7-step process of alchemy. Now we're talking about spiritual alchemy, not physical alchemy, not literally turning lead into gold, right? We're talking about the inner work, the inner transformation. This is what we'll be focusing on. Now, in one of my favorite books, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, he says the secret of life is to fall 7 times and to get up 8 times. So within that, right, he's talking about the 7 steps, right? So the 7 steps, right, which is calcination, which is what we'll be focusing on, right? Dissolution, separation, conjunction, fermentation, distillation, coagulation. So calcination. So the first step is awareness, right? Awareness of what is going on internally, right? Your belief systems. It is the stage of breaking away of attachments, right? It could be worldly attachments, stories that we tell ourselves that have been projected onto us, right? We spend so much time trying to get other people to like us, right? We know so much about them that we don't know ourselves, right? And we lose ourselves in the process. And over time, there's a buildup. There's a buildup of stuff, right? You can call it deposits, right? That start to solidify, and it just slows things down, right? You gotta tune up the engine, right? Polish all the calcified debris that's been cluttered, right? This is known as dross energy, right? Stagnant energy, right? So calcination is the purgation, right? The restoration of ourselves, and this is done through heat, right? One of the elements, most important elements, is fire to burn the impurities, right? And that happens through pressure, right? Burning the dross of the ego that's been built up, right? And our true selves is buried beneath all of that, right? And to unleash that, to express that, there's a process of going through the internal fire, right? The process is, it can be very painful. It can, we experience this through pent up anger, right? Frustration. And this process, it happens whether we want to go through it or not consciously, right? There's no room for, we have our higher self and our lower self. And in reality, they're both the same. They're both one and the same, right? So our identity construct, which is formed based on preferences, right? Based on who we are, what we like, what we don't like, and we identify ourselves based on that. And that's only the surface level, right? There's deeper components to ourselves, to who our true self is, right? So in the context of calcination, right, it starts with the outer layers, right? Of, if I do this, then I'll be loved. I need to be successful so I can be accepted. If I win the gold medal, right, then I will be worthy, right? Accolades, achievements, right? To have a sense of worthiness, of belonging. But the truth is that it's really an illusion, because you are enough, right? It's one of those things that sometimes you got to go through in life, right? You meet someone that says, you know what, making all this money doesn't buy you happiness. We've all heard that. But let's face it, it's an experience that I'd rather go through and be like, okay, and now I get it. Right? It's one thing to hear the knowledge, to hear it intellectually, but to embody that and to experience is a whole other thing. And that's where true wisdom comes from. It's through the embodiment, through the experience of it. Because as you speak from the experience, that's what is tangible. That's what people are able to connect with. They feel that. So calcination, right? So some examples of calcination, for example, is letting go of relationships that are no longer serving you, right? Personal relationships, right? What needs to be separated? What needs to be, burning away parts of the relationship that are harmful or no longer serving you, right? From friendships to romantic relationships, what's holding you back, right? To setting new boundaries, right? And that process of acting out on expressing the boundary, because it's a form of self-love and honoring yourself by expressing your boundaries, right? Another example, facing your fears, right? Confronting things that scare you and burning away those limited beliefs around that hold you back from achieving your goals, right? So for example, public speaking for me was one big fear of mine. To speak, I had this limited belief that I was not a good communicator, right? So to overcome that, what steps can I take? Whether it's joining a group like Toastmasters or practicing, doing videos, right? Putting myself in areas that I'm uncomfortable, where I get the chance to experience, and over time it builds up. Experience is just is how we build confidence, right? You're creating new frames of references that you can pivot your belief to one that's more empowering. Letting go of old habits, right? What are some habits that are no longer serving you? Whether it's, the food that you eat, eating more healthy, cutting back on sugar, or other forms of habits that are no longer serving you, right? Being on social media and just scrolling passively to kill time, right? These are just some examples, in terms of burning away this behavior, having an accountability partner, right? Setting goals, of course, healing past traumas as well. Now, this one's interesting, when it comes to healing traumas, because it's not necessarily overcoming the negativity. It's not about that, at least in my journey. It's not so much about, let me take this on so that I can get rid of this emotion, this negative emotion or belief. It's more so being detached from it, leaning in with curiosity, right? And it takes time. Like it's going to be a process in which you'll revisit this, right? Revisiting this experience, and each time it gets less of a charge, influence on you, right? And over time, and it's like with grief, right? With time, that grief never truly goes away. It's a part of you, it stays with you, but the emotional charge it has over time begins to lessen, right? So it's like that with negative emotions, right? It's not necessarily, okay, I'm going to completely convert this into something that's positive. That is possible, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's not an instantaneous thing, right? So what I'm speaking about is this whole notion of being overly positive. In fact, it's toxic when you bypass the emotions, the uncomfortable emotions that need to be experienced in favor of looking at the bright side and focusing on the positive without sitting in the mud, right? Because that emotion, that charge still stays in your body. It's going to show up somewhere, right? Being passive aggressive, microaggression in very subtle ways or not so subtle ways, right? So it's important to acknowledge all of it. See, that's the first process with calcination, right? And it's a transformational process. So this is just the first step, is the awareness. The awareness, the symptoms of what you're experiencing in contrast to what your ideal, what it is that you want to experience. So if you're unhappy with where you are, right, examining that, looking at that, and looking at where it is that you want to go, accepting that this is where you are at, bringing gratitude to it for where you're at, the experiences that brought you to where you are today, right? And gratitude brings you acceptance. It brings acceptance. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're bypassing or you're ignoring or you're putting away you're burying that, the angst or that emotion there, because it's telling you something. It's information, right? Emotions are, like I said before, is energy in motion. It's also your language, the language of your internal self, right? There's something there. It's information, right? And information in which you observe. So yeah, this is the process of calcination, which again is breaking away the ego-based beliefs, false sense of self, and putting all the focus on the external factors, external achievements of wealth, status, right? All these things that there's nothing wrong with these things. It's putting more emphasis on that, the sense of wealth, of worth, fully on that to fulfill you internally, right? And it's a grueling battle when it comes to the ego, because the ego will fight for survival, even though it's a construct. It's an identity construct that was created through our experiences, right? Acquired through various experiences, and being able to identify where we get these beliefs, why we do what we do, where it comes from, right? Giving it better understanding. And in doing so, it has less of a hold on you. You're taking back your power, right? The power that you already have within you. You've always had it. It's just throughout the process, we give away our power, right? We don't think about it, till we go inwards. So calcination, with the fire, you burn your beliefs and habits, turn it into ash and smoke, right? And it could feel like there's a part of us that's dying, right? But we're creating space for something new, something that's more of who we are. So embrace the journey. So going through the process of calcination, so one of the things to remember is, like I said, is awareness, acknowledgement. That will go a long way, right? Recognizing the aspects of yourself that you don't like or you try to ignore, right? embracing the discomfort as well too. It's not going to feel good. It's not a pleasant process, right? Because it's a burning away of parts of yourself, right? So leaning into that, leaning into the discomfort, right? And practicing mindfulness, right? Being present in the moment can help you recognize, if you're avoiding the discomfort or resisting the change, right? How you feel in your body, right? And of course, support, right? Having a support system. You don't have to go at it alone, right? Whether it's through a support group, a therapist, family or friends, right? And just learning from previous experiences. This is a cyclical process. It's not always it's not a one-time thing. We go through it in various cycles of our lives. It could be, there's mini cycles, there's macro cycles, major cycles that happen. The awareness, and after going through the process, just taking time to reflect. It's an ongoing journey, right? And calcination is just one step along the way. So it's challenging, but it is rewarding, and it is the process of growth. So yeah, that is the overview of calcination, and we will continue on to the next steps. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode and gained valuable insights and takeaways that you can alchemize into your daily life. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would be grateful if you could share it with your network and leave a review on your preferred podcast platform. Your support helps us reach more people who can benefit from our content and empowers us to continue bringing you valuable insights and inspiration. Our mission is to support conscious entrepreneurs, heart-centered visionaries, and empowered healers like you, so we'd love to connect with you. Also, don't forget to join our community on social media or our website to stay updated on our latest episodes and exclusive content. Thank you again for listening, and remember to stay curious, stay courageous, and keep shining your light. This is Hafiz, Chief Alchemist, signing off. Peace.